My name
My
is
wife,
Josh
if
Roberts.
she hears this, is going to go, "What prostitute?"
Yeah, now she's curious.
She'll
She's
listen to the
locked
whole
in now.
thing.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Matt Caiazza, and trust me, you can't make this shit up.
All right. Welcome to the You Can't Make This Shit Up podcast, where we bring in guests from all over the world to talk about leadership, to talk about success, failure, but most importantly, to talk about lessons learned. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. I met with Matt yesterday to do a little prep work, and holy shit, does he have some good stories for us. I think the stripper story. I don't know if we're going to talk about the stripper story.
It wasn't a stripper.
It wasn't. Okay.
It was a prostitute.
Well, maybe
it was a prostitute.
We'll save that. We'll save that one for last.
A whole different level.
So for the listeners out there, if you want to stick around and hear about the prostitute, we're going to have that for you today. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Josh Roberts.
My wife, if she hears this, is going to go, "What prostitute?"
Yeah. Now she's curious.
She'll
She's
listen to the
locked
whole
in now.
thing.
Yeah. So I'm Josh Roberts. I'm gonna kick it over to my co-host Tim here to introduce our guest today.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. And today it is our pleasure to have one of my close friends here in our podcast studio, Matt Caiazza. Matt is the owner of Matthew Thomas Advisors. And prior to that, he's been a CEO multiple times, has had a really unbelievable career. And it's just an honor to be able to have you be a part of this show with us
today. My pleasure. It's when it went from concept to this, when we would invest in our Vistage meetings, we'd talk about the concept. It was great. It's great that you got there.
Absolutely. And so this has been an unbelievable journey for Josh and I. We're having so much fun doing this.
Yeah.
And I know you have some really amazing stories to share with us today.
We'll see. Well, I hope so.
We're going to, kind of marvel in your misery, I think is how I like to put it. And,
yes. Thanks, Tim.
But more importantly, we're going to unpack lessons learned. And so, Matt, why don't you just give us a little brief background on yourself, and then we can kind of hop into one of your stories.
So, I'm from Pittsburgh. I have a couple kids. One lives in New York. One lives here. I'm married. And my family's, I think I mentioned I'm from Newcastle originally, live in Allison Park. And, all my life, I wanted to be in business. I came from a family of entrepreneurs. My mother's family owned a big junkyard in Newcastle, and we used to work there as kids. And my father was an attorney, so he had all these business clients. And I just thought, man, it's great to be great to own a business someday. So I've just been kind of a lifelong entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 16, washing cars, detailing cars for people, and that lasted about 3 years. Until one day I saw a guy who worked for me driving somebody's 380 SL around town that he's supposed to be washing. Ooh. So then I was like, I think I need to. So anyway, that's my background. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, for better or for worse. Yeah.
And you learned very quickly that leading people has all sorts of challenges.
It certainly does.
Someone's driving someone else's Mercedes around town.
Exactly.
Awesome. And so, kind of talk us through from originally wanting to be an entrepreneur to your leadership journey. And
Tim, my journey, I think I feel like it's different from a lot of people's. I struggled all the time. And when I got out of college, I worked for a wealth management firm in Cleveland, and then I had an opportunity to buy back an old family business. I was 23 years old. Oh, wow. I was like, all right, here I go. I'm gonna light the world on fire. And literally the business caught on fire, 14 years later. But along that way, I probably it was a manufacturing company in the confections industry. And, I had probably 30 employees at the high time, didn't make any money. We knew how to grow it, but didn't know how to make any money, and,
So what do you mean? This is like revenue. I want to say like chasing revenue, but
chasing revenue. Chasing revenue. I had an advisory board, all this stuff. I thought I was doing the right things, but I just, one of the challenges I think when you own a business or you start a business or you buy a business is that, you think that revenue is going to cure everything, and it really doesn't. It creates many times more problems than it solves, right? Because it's all about the quality of the revenue. So I was, we sold candy products around Newcastle where I lived, and then by the time the business burnt down, I was selling to Starbucks and Macy's and Nordstrom, and I think that wanting to grow the company so much, I was willing to do whatever it took to get business, So which for me, I think the main lesson learned there was that, I was making products that were really kind of outside of our sweet spot, that we just really couldn't make efficiently. And I, lost money on every single unit that came down the line, basically.
But you tried to make up for that via volume, right? Lose some
it,
money on everyone, but try to sell more.
Well, yeah, it's a whole fallacy.
Sell more, lose more.
Exactly. And it's the whole fallacy of, gross profit contributes to overhead, and that's bullshit. I mean, that's really not. But I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I used to say that, like, I could, when I was 35, I could count my mistakes in $1,000 increments when I was 23, when I bought the business, and back then I thought that was a lot of money, and then, I had a $4.5 million mistake, about 10 years ago. So my career has been one of just, stumbling my toes and actually, fortunately being around some of the right people. When our family business burnt down, I went to work for a company that was owned by a private equity group, and I got to run this small division that they just bought. And the people I worked around were, they worked at Newell Rubbermaid formerly. They were CEOs, really good CFO who was just a badass. And so I got to hang, I was around this division that was profitable, but I got to hang around and see, what it was really like, and I learned how to run a business properly, I should say, right? But that company was a turnaround. It was a company in the luggage space, and this private equity group bought it on September 10th, 2001, basically. Wow. And then nobody was traveling after that, right? And they, of course, overpaid like a lot of private equity groups do. And the thing really, it turned into a turnaround. And so I thought, I really like this. I've got this a little bit of ADD thing going on in my life, which is probably why, I wasn't very good at running the first business, because I was just always trying to go in too many directions, and really kind of caught the bug of, man, I like this whole restructuring and getting in there and trying to fix things, because I think that, people who, chase the shiny objects, it's very hard to think long term and be long term. You're more transactional. Like, things are right in front of you, and that's really important in a turnaround situation. So I then went to work for another company that the CEO went to run, which was also a turnaround. And at that time, I was on the team. I was a VP of marketing, and another private equity owned company. And as soon as I got the job, I had to go to China for 2 weeks, and then I flew from China to the first trade show at High Point. It was in the furniture industry, and these guys had bought 3 home furnishings companies and put them together. So I met all the former owners, and again, my boss was a badass. He's from Newell Rubbermaid. I mean, he just was really tough, good but tough. Go home from the trade show, and I said to my wife, I made a mistake. I go, John, my boss, he's going to be out of here in 6 months. They'll fire them. Because I knew these guys didn't want to make any changes. They wanted status quo, and there were some other things. I think that there was probably some funny business going on in Asia with, whenever nobody wants change, it's usually for a reason that's important to them, right? And so I just felt like it was a mistake. And sure enough, he got fired 6 months after I was there. So then I joined a turnaround firm here in Pittsburgh during the financial crisis, 2008.
You loved the turnaround, man.
I loved it. I loved it. It was great, a lot of fun, and that's where I learned how to sell companies, and cross some swords here and there. It was just a perfect kind of fit for me. So, but that I still wanted to run something. So I ultimately did that for about 7 or 8 years, and then bought a company with a couple partners, which unfortunately didn't work out. And that was where I had my $4.5 million mistake. And, learned a lot from that, but really learned more on the deal side in terms of, when you're buying a company, what to do, what not to do, never fall in love with something, that sort of thing. So
what are some more of those to-dos and not
I
to-dos?
think
Because a $4.5 million lesson is a big lesson,
well, there
right?
there were reasons for that, but I think that, when I was working, before I bought the company, I really wanted to run something again. I was like, all right, I've been in the turnaround industry. I don't remember how old I was. I was probably late 40s. I'm like, I know how to do this now, So I'm going to go into this company, and I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to be a fly on the wall, which was really, how it worked out. But I wanted it so bad that I looked past things that I shouldn't have looked past. Customer concentration, bad culture, deferred CapEx, was crazy. It was a fully automated bottling line to make carbonated soft drinks, and really cool. One of my customers came to see it. He was from LA. He looked at this thing and goes, "That's better than porn," because it is just so cool. If you've ever seen a fully automated manufacturing line of anything where you inputs on one end, outputs on the end, it's really cool.
Yeah,
So
I see these. I do some. I'm in this world where I get to visit manufacturing, and it is awesome.
Yeah, I fell in love with it.
It's powerful. It's awesome, and
fell in love with it.
I just went to a glass company in Monaco that was awesome.
Yeah. So, just really fell in love with it, and so I think that fell in love with the deal. I let the cash flow that it was generating make me look the other way about serious customer concentration issues. We made a deal with one of the former owners that we'd keep the son and put him on give him a severance if he didn't work out. It was a very dysfunctional. There were two brothers in the company, and it was really dysfunctional. So I'm walking into this dysfunctional situation. So, that's the big mistake.
Yeah.
That was the biggie.
I get the sense you like some of this coming into a, the turnaround.
I didn't view that one as. I didn't think that one. I didn't view that as a turnaround.
Okay.
It really wasn't.
Right.
It was making money.
Yeah.
But
almost just look past
I
some of
think
this
that
stuff. Okay.
that the deferred capex is a problem when you're buying a company in manufacturing. Culture. What's the culture like? And from a financial perspective, like I said, customer concentration is a big deal, and it pretty much killed us. So
Was it regional concentration?
No,
as well,
they had two primary customers.
Okay.
And it's just whenever I say two customers, it makes me want to puke because and then I can tell you the story, but
that's a hard. I know from my experience too. Those are when you talk to the private equity groups and you get into that road, it's customer concentration, regional,
100%.
Your location, regional concentration,
100%.
Those things are important,
right?
But ultimately, it is hard to sometimes get out of that, right?
We were getting out of it, but we had
stuff.
we put one of my partners, we ended up putting a new bottling line in, which was really the kiss of death for us. So anyway, but that was.
So we've already heard teasers here to a bunch of pretty amazing stories, I think, with businesses burning down, right? $4 million mistakes.
4.5.
4.5, excuse me. That $500K, we don't want to lose that. So which would be the best story for us to dig into?
Well, the best story would be, if you want to dig into it, would be when I left the bottling industry, I always really wanted to be a CEO in a bigger company. And I'm going from, a business that just tanked. I get hired to be the CEO of a 300 employee, $50 million contract manufacturer in the food industry in central Pennsylvania. And it was a turnaround. They were going to be defaulting on their bank covenants. And they were also facing a hockey stick year. So 50 to 70 million in 1 year.
Wow.
And from a lending and a banking perspective, having been a turnover agency, banks don't want to loan you a nickel more if you're tripping your bank covenants. Mm-hmm. So I was walking into a situation. It was a family-owned business. They had a family council, really wonderful people, great family, but they needed somebody to turn it around. The president who I took over for was a family member and decided, I this isn't something that I can do. So went through this whole round of interviews. I ended up getting hired. And the day I got the job, when I was going through the interview process, people were alluding to one person in the company that, kind of had to go, sort of thing, or was a problem person. And no one actually told me who that was. So I get the job, and I said to the guy I was replacing, I'm like, look, you're tripping. We got bank covenant issues. We got this hockey stick year. I really like to see your numbers and understand the situation before I ever come in the door. I'm like, so I can understand kind of what we're up against. He goes, great. I'll put you in touch with the VP of Finance. So I have a call with the VP of Finance, and all he's doing in the first 10 minutes is glowing about the new VP of Sales and Marketing and how he has changed everything. He brought in all this new business, and we're really going to do great.
This is the 50 to 70.
Yeah, all this flowery stuff about how great the company's going to do, and I'm going, you're the first fucking VP of Finance or CFO who's ever said anything nice about a sales and marketing person, and has had anything good to say, because they're just tend to be a little on the negative side, right? It's the way they are. So I was like, that's really weird. So then I start talking to him, like, hey, could I see your forecast? Yeah, I'll send you my forecast. And, I understand we might be tripping some bank covenants. Yeah, we may, but the bank said they'd still loan us more money, and, and where everything's great. Now, I spent 7 years dealing with companies that were defaulting on their covenants. I'm like, that's bullshit. There's no way this is the truth. Anyway, so what I found out later was he gets off the phone with me because he knew I knew my shit, right? Gets on the phone with me, calls the chairman of the board of the company and goes, hey, I just talked to Matt, the new CEO. I got to tell you, you hired the wrong guy.
Wow.
Now, I didn't find that out that he said that until later, but it didn't take me very long to understand that was the case. So I go there and tell me to speed up if you need me to speed up,
you're good,
because I could give you the novel version of this. So I start the job, and I'm seeing like there's some issues. A lot of the new business that we brought in, it's again cover overhead kind of business. We had to do a $3 million CapEx line of credit, and we were doing a whole capital expansion because we were bringing on a product line from a new customer. So in addition to that, we needed our line of credit increased at the same time. And my CFO said, the VP of Finance said, look, the bank will loan us more money because they don't have our equipment as collateral. I'm like, okay, I could see that. And plus we've got this, $3 million CapEx line of credit we can use to do the $3 million project. I'm like, all right. So we go to lunch with the banker like a couple of days later, and the old president's there, and the VP of Finance is there, and my controller's there, two bankers there, and the banker's going.
And the old president is still.
There's a transition.
He's just transitioning
out,
right?
Yeah, helping me out.
Okay.
He's a great guy. So the banker starts telling us about our credit facilities, and he makes reference to our $2 million CapEx line of credit. I'm like, what the fuck? We just approved a $3 million CapEx line of credit. We basically spent all the money. I'm like, and me and the president, we're looking at each other going, what's going on here? Because our VP of Finance told everybody, including the board, it's a $3 million CapEx. So that was the first thing. And then I'm like, I gotta look at this. So I go back to the office. I pull out our audit. We had audited financial statements, and I see the bank has all of our collateral, lock, stock, and barrel. So there's no way they were giving us an increase in our line of credit, and we had to find a way to do a $3 million CapEx project for $2 million. So I was like really pissed, and I let this guy know it. I'm like, look, how do you not know? right? That we only have a $2 million capex line, right? How do you not know? Don't you read the audit when you get it? So anyway, so I go and I take off and I go to this trade show, first trade show.
And this is early. This is still what?
Within a week.
A weekend.
Within a
Okay.
week.
All right.
Before Memorial Day. So this trade show, big trade show. We're an industry anchor in the trade show. And I knew people because I had been in the industry before, back when I owned that other company. So I had friends, and I was at this event, and I met the president who was, I'll call him how would I say it? The president once removed, right?
Okay.
The president who ran the company for 16 years prior to me. Said hi to him, talked to him, blah, blah, blah. Do the trade show. I come home, back to my house, that I was renting a house, and my wife was packing up our house in Newcastle. So I was living in this house with a coffee maker, a mattress, a television, and a couch. And on Memorial Day, my boss, the chairman of the board, calls me. He goes, Matt, he goes, I don't think you shouldn't go into the office on Monday because we may have to terminate you for cause.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, what? So what happened was at the trade show, we were at a dinner, and the guy I was replacing, we were doing something nice for him, and he was talking to the waitress, and they were having a nice conversation. I go, hey, turn around and take a picture, and I just took a picture of them, and nothing at all bad. So apparently, so trade show's over. The president, old president, sees me. Apparently was monitoring me the whole time.
Yeah.
And my boss said to me, you took this lewd photo of so-and-so. And so I go, what? No, I didn't. So they wanted to fire me for that, right? So I find the photo, and I sent it to my boss. I go, this is it. He's like, that's it? I go, yeah. So they all go. So apparently after the trade show, everyone was talking in the VP of Finance's office, and one of the people said, yeah, Matt took a picture of that. And so he kind of blew the whole thing out of proportion. And then the ex-president, once removed, sends a letter to the board, an email. I saw Matt at the trade show. He was not interested in what customers have to say. He was not even paying attention in the booth. I understand he was so drunk on Saturday night that he didn't even come to the show on Sunday morning. Where was I on Sunday morning? So one of our board members was from Chicago. He was CFO of a $300 million company. I was having breakfast with him in Chicago, trying to convince him to come to our company so I could fire the VP of Finance. So that's why I wasn't there, right?
Didn't take you long to figure that one out.
No. So these guys came at me. I mean, they sent letters to the board. I mean, I was almost going to get fired over this whole thing. And then, when I owned the bottling company, my partner at the time, when we were going down, did not pay our health care, and he did not pay our payroll taxes. So when we had to shut the thing down, one of my employees went to the hospital and didn't have any health insurance. So I ended up on television being interviewed by a television station about what happened, right? The low point of my life, because I would never have let that happen if it were on my watch. So they found this video. I get through it the first time. Yeah. 2 weeks later, they send this video to the board, and then it circles around the whole company.
An orchestrated attack, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Can you just say you can't make this up?
You can't make this up. So I was out of my mind, and I called my banker. I go, I'm coming to see you, because I was really concerned. I didn't want the bank to, you don't just fire somebody that's close to the bank, and So I go in to see the banker, and they were taking money on why I was coming there. Right. The guys that worked for my banker were like, he's coming because he's telling you he's firing this guy. He's like, no, he's not going to do it. So I sit down and I said, look, I know you're close with so-and-so. He looks over across the desk. He goes, what makes you think I'm close with him? I'm like, good, because I'm fucking firing him. So, that's what we did. So within a month,
And the board stuck with you, with you the whole time.
Because they knew this guy
they brought you in for a reason, right?
This guy would yell at family members in board meetings. Because, so this is lesson learned, right? He had finance and he had IT. Nobody was ever allowed to go ask anybody on the finance team a question. They all had to go through him.
Does it sound familiar?
Yeah.
Right?
We heard the story.
Yeah.
Right? All had to go through him.
We literally heard this.
He had the thought was he was tracking people's phones. He was so controlling. In fact, when I brought my new CFO in, she said, Matt, I went through board minutes. In the board minutes, he said, well, we moved some money around so we could be in compliance with the bank covenants on the borrowing base certificate. So basically, you're defrauding the bank.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, we are dead. And we got through all that. But that kind of shit, that's the kind of shit that was going on. And look, the board didn't know. They don't know. They just didn't know, right? And it was really, really this big black hole.
Did he pull anybody else in with him? Was it just mainly? I mean,
no.
You could kind of
In fact,
silo it there with
guess
him?
who signed the borrowing base certificates? Not him, the controller. And the controller isn't supposed to sign them,
Right.
but he made the controller sign all the borrowing base certificates.
Protect himself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it was just, and so I survived that. And from like a leadership standpoint, it was a very conservative company. They put on Jeans Friday like a year before I started there. And so really for me, given that it was a turnaround, and I'm from a Pittsburgh guy, right? I'm a get my hands dirty guy. I really tried.
What'd you say? I think you like a good pissing match.
I like a good. That's what I would tell yeah. So when all this was going on, we had to hire forensic accountants. We had to have these ex-FBI guys come in. I mean, we had forensic IT people, all this shit, and we found some things, but it really never went anywhere. But that's what I would tell my new CFO that I hired. I was like, let's go, because there's nothing I like better than a good pissing match. And I'm kind of still like that today, to my detriment sometimes.
And so how did this experience help you become a better leader, right?
Well, I think Tim, that didn't help me become a better leader. I think that, I've never really thought about that, but I think from a leadership perspective, what was important to me, because there was so much dysfunction in the company, was that people from the plant floor on down respected me and knew that I was there for them. So I went to great lengths to spend time on the production floor. I would park at the docks and walk through the floor every day so I could say hi to people. When I'd see something wrong with a piece of equipment, because I know that stuff, I'd grab a wrench and try and fix it. If I saw somebody standing at the end of a production line not on a mat that's bad for your legs, I'd make sure I gave them a mat. When it came time to do, we had to do a whole company-wide inventory because of all this, and my CFO was like, you just sit in your office for the day. I go, no. I'm going down there and taking inventory. So I spent the day on a scissor lift with somebody taking inventory. Is really important, because at the end of the day, it was about everybody's jobs, right? So it was really, really important to me. So from a leadership perspective, I've always felt that, I when I was there, I had this idea, kind of like the upside down org chart. Like the org chart should really be turned around, because it should be at the top, that people are closest to customers. And if you're the CEO, you really have the weight of the organization on you. So you really should be at the bottom. So I tried to kind of cultivate that kind of mentality, with my leadership team, and it worked, because in August we were going to have our biggest month ever, a $10 million month. And I was like, stop the presses. I want to do something for everybody if we hit $10 million.
Yeah.
We hit it, right? We were giving everybody $50 in cash. So my VP of sales and I were down on the production floor, high-fiving people. And I'm like, hey, thanks for what you did. And one of the women on the production floor said to me, we did it for you.
Oh, wow.
I was like,
holy shit.
So best moment of my career.
Yeah.
That's up there.
But all of the things that I heard you say that you were doing all build trust.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Building that trust,
Right.
building those relationships across the organization. And also you're providing paths and avenues for people to come to you directly.
Right.
So hopefully going forward, if someone is hoarding knowledge, if someone is doing things that they shouldn't be doing, then people feel free to voice that concern to you.
They do, but that can also be a slippery slope. because in a big company, a lot of personalities, a lot of stuff, you have to weed through,
Absolutely.
what's important and what's not. But you're right. And that was my whole goal was even when I first started there, the president still had his office. He had moved to a conference table. I go, look, I'm going to sit in a cubicle until you leave. He's like, no, it's all about the optics. The optics are important. I'm like, not for me, they're not, but
I think you sitting in a cubicle is good optics.
that was the optics
right?
I
That is
wanted.
the optics.
That's exactly what I was going for. So that was the difference between the management team pre-me and what the president once removed and what I was trying to bring to the table, because it takes everybody when you're trying to turn a company around.
I've been in a lot of manufacturing facilities, and the ones that I've seen that are incredible, it's exactly what you're saying. And we're walking around, when we're doing the tours, you're walking around with the leadership team or the president of the company, and they're going around and shaking everyone's hand,
Yep.
and they know their first name, they know their wife's name, their kids. How's your kid? I just had a birthday last week. I mean, they know everything about every single employee there, and that really is, and they'll do anything for them.
I was on the production floor twice a day.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you the
I think
the
that's great
CEO
advice.
now probably never goes down there.
Right.
But I was on there twice because but it was just important to me. And plus, I'm more of a regular guy anyway, so I'm more comfortable there
Yeah.
than I am, a lot of other places.
Right.
So
That's awesome.
so hopefully that helps.
Yeah, great story. And so as you then continued your career, what else helped mold you to where you are? What other stories do you have?
I think we all know what molds us to what we are, right? And it's the failures, it's not the successes. Because I was thinking about it the other day, when you have a failure, that's hitting a wall, you got to pivot and go around it. And I mean, that's how we grow, right? And I think that for one of the things, Tim, that really helped me out, and this was after I left that business in my 20s, was understanding the importance of focus. I think your tag on your emails is stay focused.
Yep.
And, when I started my business that I have now, I have an M&A firm. I started off doing some consulting while I'm trying to get M&A clients. And I was like, you know what? That lasted about 6 months. I'm like, no, that's not focus. That's me being worried about bringing in revenue so I can eat. What I really need to be worrying about is bringing in clients and closing deals. So I think that, learning how to focus has really helped me. Obviously becoming a better listener. It's hard for someone like me to be a good listener, but obviously that's really important. And, always trying to help people. When I left that company, I did some testing with an executive coach, and it came out that I really like to help people. And so I think that those are some of the things that kind of got me, where I am even in that company and anywhere else, that I'm always trying to help people, and so I think that having a genuine interest in somebody, to your point, knowing people's names and when their birthdays are and just doing things for them, I think that's everything.
That's awesome.
Have you thought about, and I know we do this with, in some ways through EOS, but one of our values of my company is purpose-driven, and that's not just purpose-driven from the company, but also for the individual. And how, I think you're maybe tapping into a little bit of that, like what it means for you to be purpose-driven. What do you care about? What are the things you're saying, you really want to help people? How have you thought a lot about that, and what does that mean?
All the time.
To you?
When I started my firm, I was like, I need some values.
Yeah.
And the great thing about EOS is how you come about with values.
Right.
Well, since I'm the only one in my company, I am the best.
Right.
Right? So
And the worst.
and the worst, right? So whatever I do, I already know how you go through
Yeah.
right? You go through the process. So I had this sticky note, and I still have it. I should have brought it. I'm going to frame it. And just as I went around and I started writing, when I'd be seeing myself acting in a certain way, I go, okay, that's a good value, and that's what I was doing. So my first value was to, always help everyone in some way. So what's that mean? I don't take every client. I can't take every client.
Right.
But my goal is that when I meet with somebody, whether they want to work with me or not, or whether I want to work with them or not, I make sure they leave with me having helped them and, having them leave with information that they can use, right?
Yeah,
What thing we're working on now, right? I have zero skin in that game, but it's part of what I do, right? So just help everyone in some way. And then, my next one that I came up with, because it's really, I'm in M&A business is something it's easy to give up on a deal, or it's just really easy to get worn down. And, I was buying companies before I started my firm, and I was dealing with business brokers, and I saw how a lot of them just didn't try real hard. And so the second value I came up with was, be tenacious and go the distance.
Love that.
And I whenever the going gets tough on a deal, and I had it happen recently, and I had to re-engage myself, I just remind myself of that. So those are, and those are, at the end of the day, those are my personal values as well, right?
Yeah.
So, but those are some of the things I think about.
Yeah, I love the self-reflection in that, and being able to kind of watch yourself as you go through life.
And then be transparent. Yeah. That was another thing that early in my career, I wasn't transparent. I always wanted to be liked by people, and I just thought, I need to be transparent as I can. So if Tim's baby's ugly, I'm just going to tell him.
Oh, yeah.
or if Greg's baby's ugly, we're just going to tell him. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's another one of my values.
Yeah.
And that's one of the values that keeps coming up over and over again in this podcast as well, right? That transparency allows for organizations as an organizational value to be able to surface issues as they come up, right? To be able to tackle things head on, to make sure is the counter value that we're not hoarding information or filtering information in order to protect ourselves, but we're doing what's in the best interest for the greater good of the organization. And that's come up several times over these episodes, is being able to really say, listen, in order to lead a great organization, we have to start with trust. We have to be transparent. We have to say things as they are, right? In a nice professional, manner. You don't have to be an a-hole.
Right.
But, those things are critically important in order to drive successful organization.
Great book on that is The Speed of Trust. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a great book.
And it's so much easier when you operate that way.
Absolutely.
Because you know where you stand. And when I was running the company in Harrisburg, I brought in this badass COO, and the board wanted me to fire her. She turned the operations around. I was like, nope, not doing it. Too bad. And, she pissed a few people off, but, whatever, right?
Yep.
And so, they ended up firing me because I wouldn't fire her. But I wasn't going to, it's part of that, right? You gotta put a stake in the ground, right? And so anyway, but yeah.
Let's catch a couple other stories. I know trying to think, is there a Cleveland bribery story going on or something here?
So when I was in the turnaround business, we were receivers for banks a lot of times. So a company would be going down, bank would bring us in to be a receiver.
So what does that do?
So a receiver basically, you now become the de facto CEO of the company.
Okay.
So when a bank wants to put a receiver in, the existing owner is out, usually 99.9% of the time. Bank hires somebody to try to usually sell the company or wind it down and liquidate it, right? But mostly it's a sale. So we would do a lot of that, and we never got any work out of Cleveland. And Cleveland's got a lot of businesses, and there was a big law firm that we did some work with in Cleveland that said, look, here's the way it works in the Cleveland court system. I hope my car doesn't blow up tomorrow morning after this. But anyway, this is the way it works.
Change the city name.
This is the way it works. Edit out Cleveland. Anyway, this is the way it works. The judges in Cleveland tend to appoint their friends as receivers. And most of the time, these guys just really aren't any good. So if you want to become a receiver, you probably should hire an attorney, because as a receiver, you have to have your own attorney because you're always in court. So you have to be represented by an attorney. So you should hire the judge's friend as your attorney. Here's who you should hire. So we hire this guy. Okay, fine. And we're going to get appointed. So I go to court, and I'm on the I'm on the side of the gate where the judge sits, and all the attorneys are, and waiting for the judge to come out. And then our attorney, I just met him for the first time. And he said, hey, nice to meet you. By the way, I was telling so-and-so, the judge, that, with the financial crisis, there's going to be a lot of receiverships coming around. He should not forget that when he runs for re-election, because a lot of people are going to want to be receivers. I'm like, yeah, that's probably true. And I'm driving home that day, and I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, what the fuck? It just dawned on me. I'm like, this guy shook me down. Not in a bar. 10 feet from the judge's bench. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even believe this happened to me. I went back up to my boss. I go, you're not going to believe what this idiot did. He shook me down and basically said that he's going to expect a campaign contribution.
Right.
Now, so then a year later, you have to, when you become a receiver, you want to not be a receiver because you have nothing but risk. Okay. So once the deal's over, you want to get released by the courts. So I'm in Chicago in the airport one day. My lawyer calls me and says, hey, the judge is ready to release you as a receiver, but he would like to know if you would make a campaign donation.
Oh, there we go.
Wow.
Now, let me explain this. There is no way I thought that came from the judge. There's no way.
Right.
No, but I think it was this guy's idea.
Right.
To help his buddy. I was like, that's just not going to happen. So forget it. We're just not going to do it. So literally, to be released as a receiver, my attorney wanted us to write a check to the judge for his campaign so that, my attorney could say, hey, look what I got you, So that was that one. Yeah, that was a crazy one.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's reality, huh?
Yeah, that's reality.
That's hard to believe. So
Yeah.
did you? I mean, you ended up ultimately getting released.
Oh yeah, we got out.
and
We got
out,
they couldn't keep
he
us
tried his
around. Yeah,
best.
we got out of there. So, but yeah.
Wow, that's insane.
And
So-
that deal had the FBI involved, had the union
bet it
involved,
did,
but
yeah.
you can bring me on another podcast. for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I remember, I think we started off that we also wanted to maybe hear about
A funny one.
a funny one here. Is
So
there- I mean, I said stripper.
Prostitute.
You said prostitute, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
Holly has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
It's not me. Trust me. So I was the second
This is
turn.
gotta be in Vegas. I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
it was.
I don't
Of
know.
course, it was Vegas. Where
Okay,
else?
here we go.
The second when I turnaround I did was with the home furnishings company. So we had a showroom in Vegas for home furnishings, and we were out there for a trade show. And one night, we're all at the bar, and one of the sales guys stammers in with a prostitute, and he's just hammered, and he's like telling everybody, I'm gonna marry Crystal. I'm gonna marry Mrs. Crystal. We're gonna get married. I'm like, of course,
boy.
of course you are, right? So anyway, night goes over, but we go to our room. The next morning, we're at the show. He doesn't show up. He's like not there. 10 o'clock, he's not there. And I'm asking like one of my VPs, I'm like, hey, where is he? And he shows up at like 10 o'clock is, hey, I'm sorry I'm late. I had a conference call with a customer, ran late. I'm like, okay, no
Sure
big
you
deal.
did.
No
Yeah,
big deal.
yeah.
So my buddy pulls me aside the next day. He goes, he was afraid to tell you what really happened. He took the hooker to his room. She rolled him, took his watch, his cell phone, and his wallet.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
You can't make this shit up.
Damn it,
damn
shut
it.
up, man. Right.
Wow.
So anyway.
Everything.
Yeah.
So he probably had some good lessons learned from that.
Yeah. He had some splaining to do.
Explaining, yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
you would have lessons. Wow, got the whole shebang there. Huh.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
So anyway.
Awesome. And so, what about your business catching on fire? There has to be a story around that.
No, it was just very sad. I mean, I was on vacation in Kiowa, and we were in the middle of our busiest year, and also, we were in workout because as I said, we tripped some bank covenants, and we were in workout, and I was on the deck reading a forbearance agreement from the bank, and in the middle of the night, my sister called me and said that the factory burnt down, and there was a fire.
Holy cow.
There was a fire at a lumber yard that night, and then a fire at our building, and they, the thinking was somebody was setting some fires. So, building burnt down to the ground. It's just all the family business issues percolated to the top, and we ended up going our separate ways. But even then, during the investigation, the arson investigation, the arson investigator went to one of my people and said, "What do you think really happened?"
Oh.
I'm like, really, dude?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's what happened. So
Literally,
sad.
Figuratively, it
Yeah.
burned to the ground. It's
Yep.
crazy.
So one of the questions we love to end with is if you could go back in time and give the younger version of Matt some advice, right? What What would that be?
It would be a liberal arts major and work in the art world. Don't get into business. be a musician. Yeah. be a musician. No, I mean, I think Tim, it would be, go slow, right? Be a really good listener. Don't ever let your ego get in the way of things, right? Don't want to appear more important or successful than you really are, but I think what I would say is develop your own core values.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That was what I wanted to tell you was, if I back in my 20s would have said, all right, here are these core values. Here's what makes Matt Matt.
Yep.
And I'm going to live by these things and make all my decisions by these things. That's probably the number one thing I would tell my
kind of keep you in these guardrails a little bit better,
Yeah.
Otherwise it just you chase.
Exactly.
That's
the number one thing.
It's I think kind of piggybacking on what you said. So like, don't always try to be the hero. It's like as problem solvers, it's like always want to solve the problem, but you gotta you gotta allow other people to be able to solve the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And to your point, to be able to listen.
Right.
Is man, I wish I would have known that 10 years ago too.
Yeah. Listen, have great core values, be transparent, all the kind of things I have now.
Yeah, the personal core values along with the corporate core values are key to success in life. Since my kids were very little, they could recite our family's core values, right? And
that's great.
It's
That's
just
awesome.
been hammered into them. And what I love is now that my daughter, she's 14, she's becoming more of an adult herself. She's taken our family core values and she's tweaked them a little bit, right? Slightly, just to match her vision for her life, right? And so our family's core values are you become who you hang around. So I love the people I get to spend my time with because they inspire me, to challenge me, help me become the best version of myself. And so I wanted nothing more than for my kids to really manage their circle well, right? And because they're going to become who they hang around.
Yeah, it's an amazing value at that age to be able to think about those things.
Absolutely. And then the second one was to never give up, right? Tannert's never quit. It's what we say all the time in our household, because you just gave a tremendous amount of examples on how life's hard.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to constantly be facing challenges. And I truly believe the difference between the successful people and the people that aren't as successful is the successful people are just too stubborn to give up. They just keep going. Right. And then the third one is to treat others as they want to be treated. Right. We've talked about the golden rule and the platinum rule, but if you do all of those things out of kindness and love with the people around you.
Right.
I felt that those three things in combination, right? If my kids pick their circle well, if they selected a big, hairy, audacious goal and never gave up, and they treated everyone that they came in contact with respect and love and compassion, right? I was building a great next generation. And so to be able to take those things and to apply them. And so all of these leadership lessons go far beyond just leadership. They're life lessons.
Right.
They're things that can help us continue to navigate our life as we grow and enjoy this crazy journey that we're on.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the picture of the frog being swallowed by the bird, and the frog is in the bird's mouth? It's like a geese or something like that, and the bird's trying to swallow the frog. The frog has his hands around his head in the bird's beak, and it says, "Don't ever give up."
Exactly.
And I don't know who was talking about. I used to have that in my kids' bedrooms. I'll have to send it to you.
I love
I
that.
had it when they were growing up. It was in each of their bedrooms.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Any more parting thoughts that you would like to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
Don't drink too much when you're in Vegas.
Yeah.
That's a good
Stay
one.
away from prostitutes. No, I mean, I think that the parting thought, ending on kind of one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is just know your values, know who you are, and operate that way, right? And be around the right people, right? Because as you were saying that, I thought about my journey through the shit I've been through to now, and I wouldn't have. I've made it, I think, because I was always around the right people.
Yep.
where I'd learned things and who helped me. And, so I think that's just so critical.
Absolutely. Josh is unbelievably involved in YPO.
Yeah.
You and I are involved in Vistage. There's EO, there's a lot of groups out there, but finding your circle, finding those people that you can trust and rely on and use as a sounding board is critical to success.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did one last question for you. we're sitting here filming this in Pittsburgh, and you said you're a Pittsburgh guy. So tell me kind of some parting, what do you love about Pittsburgh?
Without question, it's the people.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, moving here from out of town or living in Central PA, everyone just is very accepting of you, and I was in the Strip, my office is in the Strip, and this couple from Texas, these couple were kind of walking in front of La Prima, and they had this pizza with them. I'm like, hey, where'd you get the pizza? She told me. They sit down, and we find out they're from Texas. And they're like, the people here are so nice. I go, yeah, some random stranger will just chat you up, right? Yeah. but I think it's the people. The people in Pittsburgh are just really hard workers, and we take care of each other. The community is just amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just, I come down to Route 8. How many times I get on 28, I see the city, and I go, I am just so grateful to be working here, and living here. And I work with my dad. My dad's 88. He's an author, shares an office with me.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
So I work with my 88-year-old dad every day. I mean, how doesn't get any better?
That's an unbelievable thought, because when I go down 8 to 23, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this traffic sucks. Yes. So the fact that you're the grateful mindset, man, that's...
I am. I really am, because I never thought, given the that I've been through, I never thought I would be here, and having the success I'm having and the friends I'm making, and it's ridiculous how lucky I am. So,
well, we're grateful for you joining us here on the podcast.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I didn't drop too many F-bombs either.
Yeah, I know. I was like, clear the kids and clear them out.
We do have the explicit rating on
good, yeah.
on Apple's podcast. So awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Hey, thank
Matt.
you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun.
Loved having you here, and we want you guys to come back, keep joining us for the You Can't Make This Shit Up podcast. Keep hearing the stories that we unpack of some of the biggest challenges or disasters or things that we just had to work through in our life, and how it made us better leaders and helped facilitate our journey to where we are today. So thank you all very much. I'm Tim Tannert.
And I'm Josh Roberts.
And you cannot make this shit up.